There's a moment, just before you respond, when your chest tightens, when the words bubble up behind your teeth, when your pride leans forward ready to defend, to strike, to prove. But something in you pauses. You don't lash out, you don't explain, you simply don't move. That pause, that stillness, that's power. It doesn't feel like power at first. It feels like surrender, like letting them win, like letting that insult hang in the air unanswered, letting their glare pass through you as if you're made of glass. But here's what most people never learn. In the game of ego and drama, the one who speaks last doesn't win. The one who refuses to play already has. This isn't about being passive. It's about being precise. You are not avoiding action. You are choosing the right one. When someone hates you, they want your energy. They want your time. They want to see your blood rise, your lips move, your hands shake. They want to know they still have a hold on you. But when you stay still, when you remain calm, you make them question their own significance. You force them to sit with the silence they created. As Lao Tzu once taught, those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. Stillness isn't weakness. It's a mirror, and it reflects back everything they don't want to see about themselves. Imagine a pond. When someone throws a stone into it, the water ripples. But if the pond is frozen, unmoved, that stone simply skids away, powerless. What if your stillness is that frozen surface? What if your refusal to react is the most confusing, most painful response you could ever give? So ask yourself this: do you want to hurt them? Or do you want to free yourself from needing to? Because every time you don't respond, you're taking a step back into your own authority. You're refusing to be baited. You're no longer dancing to their rhythm. You're building silence into strength. And that's why I made this video. Not to teach you how to hurt people, but to show you how to walk away in such a way that they're left haunted, not by your cruelty, but by your absence. You don't need to lift a finger to wound someone who only understands noise. You just need to stop making any. If this resonates with you, this idea that power lies not in retaliation, but in restraint, then this is the kind of space I'm building here. I'd be honored if you subscribed and joined me in exploring how Stoicism can help us walk through life with calm, unshakable dignity. Let's begin. Number 1, outgrow their imagination of you. You weren't born to be who they think you are. Somewhere along the line, someone decided they knew your limits. They measured you by a single moment, a mistake, a silence they misread, and then they locked you into a version of yourself that felt far too small. They whispered or shouted what you'd never become. They defined your worth by your past, and they hoped you'd never outgrow their definition of you. But here's the truth. The most devastating response to those who hate you is to become someone they never saw coming, not out of spite, not to prove a point, but because you owe it to yourself to stop shrinking to fit the idea they made of you. Haters operate on prediction. They think they've figured you out. They think you'll keep reacting the same way, staying stuck in the same story, never changing your script. And the moment you change, you break their illusion. You create discomfort, not with violence, but with your growth. Seneca once said, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." When you start upgrading your thinking, strengthening your routines, rising above petty arguments and walking a little taller, not with arrogance, but with clarity, they won't know how to respond. You become untouchable not because you fought back, but because you're no longer standing in the same room. You're operating at a level they've never visited. I've felt this personally. There were times when I knew certain people expected me to fail. They didn't say it outright, but it showed in their tone, their indifference, their smug, "I told you so" glances. At first, I wanted to argue, to explain my plans, to prove my effort, but I realized, what if the most effective response is becoming the version of me they can't explain away? Like a tree growing so tall it shadows the voices below, not loud, just present, not angry, just impossible to ignore. Think about it. A seed doesn't scream when it grows, it just breaks the ground. It stretches upward quietly, with no need for approval. What if your growth isn't something to announce, but something to live? This path of outgrowing them requires discipline. You can't just want revenge. You have to want transformation. You have to invest in your physical strength, your mental clarity, your emotional discipline. You have to become so focused on your evolution that their noise sounds like background static, annoying but irrelevant. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, lost everything in a shipwreck, but he said, "I made a prosperous voyage when I suffered shipwreck." He used that collapse as a beginning. He outgrew his identity as a merchant and became a philosopher, not to spite his past, but to outgrow it. What if your haters are simply voices from a past version of you that no longer fits? Let them stay in that past. Let them talk to your ghost. You don't live there anymore. So ask yourself, what part of you are they still talking to? And is that even you anymore? This is the quiet vengeance of self-improvement, not flashy, not shared on social media, but steady, daily, private, and devastating in the long run to those who can't keep up. Because while they're gossiping, you're growing. While they're predicting your failure, you're practicing your focus. While they're stuck in jealousy, you're building peace. And eventually, the gap becomes so wide, they can no longer touch you with their words. You're beyond them, not in worth, but in direction. And that is how you hurt them. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with altitude. Let them aim their arrows. They won't reach you where you're going. Number 2, make your inner peace their mystery. There's something deeply unsettling about a person who doesn't flinch, especially to those who want a reaction, especially to those who thrive on chaos, conflict, and control. When someone hates you, they want access, not just to your time, but to your emotions. They want to stir the pot, to knock you off center, to make you feel small, because if they can get under your skin, then on some level, they've won. But when your peace is intact, when your calm is not a performance but a foundation, you confuse them. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Your real retaliation isn't in how you respond, it's in not needing to. There were moments in my life when people poked, mocked, or tried to provoke a rise from me. I used to fall for it. I'd explain, overreact, correct the record, send the long message, rehearse comebacks in my head. But I noticed something strange. The more I explained, the more they pushed. The calmer I became, the more uncomfortable they got. It's like my silence created a vacuum they couldn't fill. And that vacuum became their mirror, because your peace, when real, reveals their inner unrest. When you refuse to match their chaos, they begin to feel exposed. They're left fighting ghosts, shadowboxing with someone who won't step into the ring. Think of a wildfire. It spreads with dry brush, with things that catch easily. But if there's nothing left to burn, it dies out. Your calm is that barren land. You become the firebreak. But calm isn't passive. It takes training. It takes knowing that your self-worth doesn't swing with someone's opinion of you. It takes breathing through insults. And remembering that the only people you need to impress are the ones who already see your heart. What if your peace wasn't a mask, but a muscle? You develop it by choosing not to feed the drama, by recognizing when someone's hate is not about you, it's about them, their fears, their insecurities, their unmet needs. So when they try to rile you up and you stay level, they're forced to confront their own noise without your echo, and that's when the real pain begins. Because without your reaction, they're alone in their hate. Their anger has no place to land. Their performance has no audience. You don't have to scream to be powerful. You just have to be unavailable to chaos. As Buddha once taught, If someone offers you a gift and you refuse to accept it, to whom does it belong? Hate works the same way. If someone sends you their bitterness and you simply don't receive it, it stays with them. Let them talk, let them rant, let them throw their stones. You just keep building your garden. And that's the metaphor I want you to hold on to here. Imagine you are tending a garden of your inner life. Every day you water it with silence, with reflection, with intention. And when someone throws dirt over the fence, you don't stop to argue. You use it to fertilize the soil. Because that's the paradox of peace. It protects you, and it grows you. And for those who live off of control, nothing is more painful than realizing you are unreachable. So ask yourself, what part of you still wants to give them the satisfaction of a reaction? And what would it feel like to let that part go? The next time they test your boundaries, let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them spin theories in their head about your silence. Let your inner stillness become their greatest curiosity. That's how you turn their hate into a question they can't answer. That's how your peace becomes your power. Number 3, turn your attention to beauty. Hatred at its core is needy. It begs for attention. It feeds off reaction. It thrives when you stare directly at it, trying to understand it, fix it, fight it. But what happens when you simply look away, not in denial, but in devotion to something better, to something more worthy of your time, your gaze, your soul? Epictetus once said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." And attention is the most precious form of control you possess. You may not be able to stop someone from hating you, but you get to decide whether or not they rent space in your mind, whether or not they steal your energy with every glance, every comment, every whisper. You get to choose what you see, and where your eyes go, your life follows. I've lived this. There were seasons when I felt consumed by other people's negativity. I'd obsess over every word said behind my back, scroll through posts wondering if they were about me, replay conversations in my head until they soured everything good in my day. But slowly, I realized I was handing them my life, 1 minute at a time. So I made a shift, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. I turned my attention to the books that made me feel alive, to the projects that fed my purpose, to the walks that calmed my heart, to the relationships that made me feel seen. Not because the hate disappeared, but because it became irrelevant. Think of it like this. If you're in a dark room and someone lights a match to scare you, you can stare at the flame and panic, or you can open the curtains, let in the light, let in beauty. Hatred can't survive in a mind that's full of purpose. And beauty isn't always grand or poetic. Sometimes it's incredibly small. The way sunlight lands on your coffee mug, the silence of early morning, the feeling after finishing something you once put off, the sound of a voice that reminds you you're not alone. When you turn toward those things, you're not avoiding the hate. You're outgrowing its hold. The person who hates you wants you locked in battle. They want your attention tangled in their drama. But when you turn your face toward what nourishes you, you leave them swinging at shadows. They become like someone screaming at a statue. Their noise means nothing because you've already moved on. This is not passive, it's defiant joy. It's emotional sovereignty. It's saying, I don't owe my energy to anything that doesn't make me more whole. There's a reason why gardens grow in silence, why sunsets don't apologize, why mountains don't explain themselves. Beauty is quiet, but it reshapes you. It gives you something that hate never can. Peace, focus, expansion. And every moment you spend immersed in it is a moment you take back from those who wanted you broken. So I'll ask you this, what have you stopped noticing because hate made you look the other way? What if today, right now, you reclaimed your attention? What if you gave it back to the things that actually grow you? Let your life become a place too rich, too full, too beautiful for bitterness to take root. That's how you win. That's how you hurt those who hate you without lifting a single finger. You starve them of the one thing they need, your gaze, and you give that gaze back to the world, to the things that love you quietly and build you slowly and make you real again. Number 4, let time do the talking. Time is the quietest judge, but also the fairest. It doesn't shout, doesn't argue, doesn't rush to prove anything. It simply reveals. And when it comes to those who hate you, time is your most powerful ally, if you let it work on your behalf. We live in a world obsessed with instant rebuttals. Someone throws shade online, we clap back in seconds. Someone misjudges us, we scramble to explain ourselves. But every quick reaction is like throwing stones into a river. The water moves on and the stones sink, forgotten. What if, instead of wasting your breath, you let your actions and your consistency do the talking for you? Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Time is how you revoke it. You stop giving weight to every word. You stop granting every insult the power to demand a response. Instead, you build, you create. You live in such a way that your reality makes their accusations irrelevant. I've learned this personally, though not easily. There were people who doubted me, not just quietly, but publicly. They whispered, they laughed, they predicted my failure like fortune tellers at a rigged carnival. At first, I wanted to fight back. I wanted to prove them wrong right now. But the truth is, nothing silences a critic like time spent creating. Over months, over years, while they were stuck talking, I was stacking small wins. And one day I looked around and realized their voices were gone. Or maybe they were just too far behind to hear anymore. Because time doesn't just reveal the truth about you, it reveals the truth about them. A person's bitterness can only wear a mask for so long. Time strips it away piece by piece. It's like watching a storm from a window. At first, the thunder feels personal. It shakes the walls, rattles the glass. But if you just wait, if you sit calmly, knowing storms pass, the sky clears on its own, and the storm always looks smaller when it's gone. That's the beauty of letting time talk for you. It requires patience, yes, but patience isn't weakness, it's confidence. It's trusting that truth always wins the long game. So how do you let time do the work? You focus on the long arc of your story, not the short-term noise. You live in alignment with your values every single day. You resist the urge to explain, and instead, you let your character become the undeniable evidence. There's a certain kind of hurt that comes from being ignored, from realizing that your hate is powerless against someone's growth. That's what time delivers, a slow, undeniable proof that your enemies were wrong all along. Ask yourself this: what if you didn't try to win today? What if your entire strategy was to be standing strong and whole when the dust settles? It's not about revenge. It's about letting life be your ally. Because when you look back, you'll see that the greatest victories weren't the moments you shouted the loudest, but the moments you stayed quiet, worked hard, and let your results do the talking. Time will show them, time will strip away their masks, and time will place you exactly where you were always meant to be, beyond their reach, beyond their noise. There's a voice inside you that whispers, hit back, not with fists, but with words, not with violence, but with pride. It says, don't let them get away with this. It says, if you don't defend yourself, you'll look weak. But what if that voice is lying? What if true strength isn't in striking back, but in knowing you don't have to? In a world that celebrates outrage, walking away can feel like betrayal. Betrayal of your dignity, your justice, your pride. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. It says, the person who masters himself needs no external proof of power. As Aristotle once reflected, to be angry is easy, but to be angry at the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. It's even harder to not be angry at all, to feel the heat rise in your chest, and let it pass through like a wave without letting it crash. The truth is, you don't owe anyone your retaliation. You don't have to clap back to prove your worth. You don't have to sink to their level to show how high you stand. There is profound power in being still. When others expect you to break, you become the mountain they can't move, the mirror that reflects without distortion, the silence that echoes louder than their noise. I've learned this not from books alone, but from life. There have been times when I swallowed pride so sharp it hurt. Times I sat in silence while others misjudged me, mistreated me, misunderstood me, and it burned. But I survived it, and not only that, I grew because of it. Because every time I didn't strike back, I walked away with something stronger, self-respect. That's the reward for choosing restraint over revenge. Not applause, not a clear victory, but the quiet knowing that you did not betray your values just to win a meaningless argument. So here's the final reflection. What if you stopped asking, "How do I hurt them?" and started asking, "How do I remain unshaken?" Because to hurt someone who hates you without lifting a finger is not about being cruel. It's about becoming a version of yourself that their hatred cannot reach. When you walk in peace, build your life, keep your head down, and live with integrity, you're not just avoiding a fight. You're becoming untouchable. Let your silence be sharp. Let your calm be confusing. Let your growth be louder than your rage. Because when the dust settles and the noise fades and their words no longer echo in your mind, you'll be left with something they never had, a life that speaks for itself. That is the Stoic way. That is how you win. And that is how you leave them wondering, not what you said, but how you stayed silent.